Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer for NC State on SI, Tucker Sennett. It's wonderful to be with you today, and officially within 1 week of the Wolfpack getting the 2025 football season started. Very exciting times. We've had a lot of player availability throughout NC State fall camp, talked to a lot of different guys that are really excited to be back or here in Raleigh to play with the Wolfpack in 2025. And this looks to be a team that's really anxious to improve. One group that's going to need to break out in a big way if NC State wants to take a step in the win column from that six-game total a year ago is going to be the wide receivers. And the question is really, how dynamic could this group be? That's what it comes down to. And it's certainly a group that has some pedigree and has talent and really has speed. That's become abundantly clear over the summer and into the season. Wesley Grimes, sort of the elder statesman of the group, came over from Wake Forest a year ago. Um, he ran a 4.24 40-yard dash over the summer. That's that's blazing. Now, where it gets interesting is Noah Rogers, the Ohio State transfer. He claims that if they ran a 100-yard dash, he would beat him. So he thinks he's that fast. He just needs a little bit more time to have a runway. Even so, if they have two guys in the wheelhouse of a 4.24 that are catching passes from sophomore quarterback CJ Bailey, the recurring word around these guys has been explosiveness and being explosive as a group. So if that's the case, they could be right, and this could be a very explosive bunch. Let's just run through the group for context purposes and how they'll likely line up. At X, Rogers seems to be the favorite with Keenan Jackson, who had a solid freshman year last year as the backup there, and he'll certainly get some reps. And another thing that's notable about this group is they've all talked about versatility and being able to move in and out of different positions, play inside, play outside, play in the slot. Most of the guys in this group will probably line up everywhere this year in some capacity. But these are just more of the consistent roles. Rogers came over from Ohio State. He was recruited heavily there, and he knows what stars look like. He played his freshman season. He didn't see the field, but he redshirted, and he was in that wide receiver room with Emeka Egbuka, who was one of Ohio State's most prolific wide receivers over the last few seasons, and Marvin Harrison Jr., who many called an absolute generational talent. Didn't have the rookie year that he wanted in the NFL, but showcased that he could be a Hall of Fame receiver for years to come, and obviously has it in his genes. And Rodgers got to watch those guys. He got to see what they do on a daily basis and how they operate. And that can go a long way in developing a wide receiver when they can sort of understand the routine and what Rodgers called the little things. That could really spur on his development and make him a dynamic pass catcher in this second year with NC State. At the Z spot, you're going to get Wesley Grimes there. And I think it'll probably be freshman Jarrell Boulder, and then Jackson might switch in and out there in the backup role, but Boulder seems to have had a pretty strong camp. This isn't it's not a super deep group beyond the first two layers of it, but that's just something to monitor depending on if any of these guys get injured over the course of the season. But Grimes with that burner speed could be a huge weapon. And he's seen a lot. He played in the ACC with Wake Forest. He has a year under his belt working with CJ Bailey. He, I mean, that speed could be a game breaker for this Wolfpack team. And Boulder's an exciting young freshman that's somebody to watch as the season moves along. In the slot, it's sort of a neck and neck competition between, from what we understand in the media, between sophomore Terrell Anderson, who was solid as a freshman a year ago, um, but he's getting pushed by this super dynamic freshman Teddy Hoffman out of Florida, who I've talked about a fair amount at this point, and I've written about these guys about as much as I can in the preseason. And Hoffman, from watching some of his high school highlights and looking at him, his we don't get to watch practice, but seeing his body type, he profiles as sort of your perfect slot receiver. He runs very fluidly. He has that ability to kind of operate really well in space, and it's something that could be really valuable for this NC State team going into this season. So that's your group. I expect every single one of those guys will contribute in some way, shape, or form this season. I think Rogers, Grimes, and Anderson, and maybe Jackson will be the primary group there, but Boulder and Hoffman, if based on their camp performances from everything we've heard, have a very real chance to be important parts of this offense in year one, which is great moving forward for NC State if they're able to retain those guys in the coming years. Things to monitor with this group, you got another year with CJ Bailey. That continuity. They brought back they promoted Kurt Roper to offensive coordinator. He was the quarterback's coach to preserve that feeling of continuity for Bailey and not drop him in a whole new system. And that stretches to these guys as well. So they're entering a year where they know what the system's going to look like. Probably will be tweaked a little bit to hopefully get these guys the ball more. Obviously, NC State does have a really, really talented running back in Hollywood Smothers who is going to get his touches, but there that could benefit this group. And they're going to build chemistry with Bailey as the season goes on, but they have some favorable matchups where they can, put up some numbers, you would think, especially if Bailey is as good as everybody's making him out to be. They can put up some serious numbers, they can build a rapport, and they can just figure some things out early before the tough competition comes towards the end of the season. The other thing is you got tight end Justin Jolie, you got Hollywood Smothers in the backfield. You Those are two guys that the defenses are probably going to expend massive amounts of effort and energy trying to contain. So if these receivers can take advantage of that and find the open spaces, and Roper can scheme plays for them where they can be in open space and show that versatility and that speed, they could be one of the most underrated groups in the entire ACC. Getting them the ball based on the offensive line and if Smothers can be effective and if Jolie takes that next step, that's going to be the question. And if that all happens, which you never know, these guys could be poised for a huge year. Um, Kevin Concepcion is gone, KC. He's with Texas A&M now. He obviously had that incredible freshman year, took a big step back after they were really trying to feed him the ball last year, and is gone. Who's going to step into his role? That's really the question. He was a dynamic downfield threat, um, strong, fast. To me, Rogers profiles as the best fit there, given his background and talent that we just haven't seen on full display yet. That's my pick there, and that could go a long way. The stats for these guys last year were not super impressive, partially because this offense was just so anemic and went through so much change between McCall and Bailey. McCall getting that devastating injury that ended his college football career, Bailey coming in, taking over, having to learn on the fly as a true freshman. It was hard to get a passing offense going that was complicated enough to get these guys the ball all the time. Rodgers had 35 receptions for 478 yards and just one touchdown. Grimes had 319 yards for on 24 receptions for a touchdown. Anderson had 158 and a touchdown. Jackson had 124 and two touchdowns. And Jolie was the number one receiver on the team at tight end. And he didn't even get the ball that much. So I think everybody should expect the passing offense to take a step under Roper just because they know what they're doing this time. They don't have to learn and mix learning the offense in with game prep. And that's why I think this group could be really, really talented, really dynamic. They could break out in a big way, but things have to go right. Because, if Bailey doesn't take that step, things could be uglier than last year. And that's sort of the question mark with this group because this is not a group that is going to be able to make plays itself. They lack some of that separation ability showcased by those receivers that Rodgers played with at Ohio State. And they're going to need help from Bailey. They're going to need help from Jolie and Smothers creating that open space. They're going to need good schematic plans from Roper. And if all that comes together, yes, this could be a really dynamic receiver group. That's all we got today on the NC State Insider podcast. As always, feel free to follow me on X at Senate Tucker. That's my account where I post some of the best stories from the website every day, breaking news content, yada, 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 etc. For all of our content, follow the at Wolfpack on SI X account. And you can watch all of our episodes as well as media availability on Sports Videos SI. Um, that's a YouTube channel, and that's where all of the content for all the teams we cover, not just me. You got North Carolina up the road. If you want to check in on Bill Belichick up there, some great coverage coming out from there. Great stuff all around. Throw them a subscription on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for tuning in to the NC State Insider Podcast. Have a wonderful day.